And we're live. Good afternoon and good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's LinkedIn Live from Gain. I'm your host, Zoe Kambuzi. I'm part of the Gain marketing team and a Gain advisor. And today we have Adam Mogolonsky, who's also a Gain advisor, as well as a hotel development and asset manager. And he also talks a lot about wellness in hotels, which is right up my alley. So I'm super excited. Welcome, Adam.
Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. So first off, tell me a bit about your hospitality background and also why you've gravitated towards the wellness sphere.
Well, in a past life, I was studying to be a doctor. So I did life sciences in university, then went on to study physiotherapy and became a personal trainer, and then did a segue to join my father in his hospitality and tourism marketing and communications agency. Then from there, we spun that off into a consultancy, and 15 years later, here I am. So that's the long and short of it. I know we got to keep these conversations relatively quick. The focus on wellness is both a personal passion where I personally, it pains me to see people living unwell, and just knowing that things like when somebody does get sick or is slightly under the weather, it affects their ability to perform at their job, to think clearly, but also to take care of their friends and family and to be good to their community. So it's a personal gripe of mine to not have more awareness for wellness. And also it has huge revenue potential for hotels. So right now I'm in Toronto. Where I should be right now is in St. Andrews, Scotland for the Global Wellness Summit, which is happening right now. I didn't go this year for various reasons, but they do a great job at posting statistics on the growth of wellness overall. And, you know, cumulative annual growth rate is like a 12% year over year. And it's in whichever asset class you look at, it's in the billions or coming up on trillions. And really where wellness comes in is it has huge potential to grow revenues, be that ancillary or to support increased nightly rates, but also it has potential to give your brand purpose. And where that comes in is I'm an asset manager and developer for luxury and upscale. So the first thing we ask is, why this hotel? What's the reason to visit? Are you just another head in bed, in which case your price is simply dictated by the market and you're commoditized, and it's just a matter of having your channel manager work to set up to the OTAs and they take their 20% commission and you're trying to get down to 19 or 18% of net revenues? Or do you actually have some reason where people are going to point to your hotel and go, yes, that's the place I want to stay at. I don't care if it's $100 more per night. Right? Big thing to do. I'm not saying wellness is the panacea. There's also food and beverage. Like, people want to stay at the hotel that is right next to their convention center, or that has the glitzy rooftop bar, or that has that beautiful pool or sun and beach, etc. But wellness is a great avenue to pad out everything else and to grow revenues in a variety of ways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you for that explanation. And yeah, it's a very interesting area for hospitality, both from a personal perspective and from a business perspective. So yeah, great reflections. Well, today we're going to hone in on one of the slightly lesser talked about wellness aspects, which is mobility. Personally, I'm a big fan of moving your body. And I'm wondering, Adam, why do you call it mobility rather than sport or exercise? So what is that?
Right. So within the sentence that you just said, there was an inherent assumption, which is you said that mobility is you liked moving. And this is difficult to understand, is that mobility is the ability to move. Therefore, mobility precedes movement. And without breaking down any of the anatomy of how muscles pull on a joint via tendons, ligaments, and move bones, what can really be said about mobility is that it is the range of motion and the ability to move stabilizing across a joint without pain. And the simplest way is it's the ability to move. What is important for everyone to hear is Yes, you can go on YouTube and learn about mobility and do various exercises. The next key question to answer is why care? Why care about mobility? Why are we here today talking about mobility in the context of hotels? And again, this is a personal gripe about the lack of awareness over wellness, but also the lack of awareness over mobility. And I see this all the time because I spend about an hour a day just researching hotels, whether I'm working on them or not. I'm always looking at hotels. I'm a hotel junkie. And I'm always looking at the fitness center. And I scroll through the features and the amenities of a hotel, and it's, oh, we have a fitness center with state-of-the-art equipment. And it's one of 3 companies. You can look them up. I don't mean to besmirch them, but I kind of do want to besmirch them. Their names are Technogym, Life Fitness, and Hammer Strength. And by state of the art, it means you've brought the shiny new stainless steel and nicely clad machines, but they still are machines. They still are, you're moving the body in one dimension. And you look at how our bodies are designed for running across a grassland or climbing trees. Nothing in nature exists in one dimension. It always involves mobility across multiple joints. So cramming a gym or a fitness center in a hotel full of quote unquote state-of-the-art equipment, everyone's doing that. It doesn't add value to the guest experience. It's not going to help you win over guests. Meanwhile, there are hotels at the high end that are doing the real stuff, the inserting of the actual cable machines, the isometric machines, the various isotonic machines, and all these other advanced equipments where it's like, whoa, this gym is doing something cool. I can actually improve my mobility and help reduce pain and improve my posture, all those various value adds and benefits to the guests. And therefore, the gym becomes an actual selling feature, a reason to increase nightly rate or to drive any sort of personal training sessions or multi-day programs, any which way to pad length of stay or your ancillary revenues. So really, the reason why we're here today with mobility is because hotels are really missing the mark about using mobility training and awareness to add value to the guest experience and drive revenues.
Interesting. Okay, so I get it. There's a real difference between your kind of cookie cutter gym that's actually just as an expected standard at most hotels, and then you've got this mobility experience. Can you explain a little bit about what that mobility experience would look like? You've said there are specific machines, and would that involve a trainer? Like how would that play out in a hotel?
Okay, so we have to break down what the word hotel means. And really, because hotels are, they're all unique birds across different product categories. So at the platinum tier, you'll have the guys like Canyon Ranch or Chanel Palace or Clinique La Prairie, where they're charging for a 1-week program 7,000 euros or more to come in and work with a trainer, do various diagnostics, whether that is a DEXA scan or a DT scan, looking at your bone density, fat composition, and infrared to see where you're holding tension, and then guide you through individual exercises, working with a physiotherapist or trainer who has some credentials to go through actual movement patterns and reactivate what's called the neuromuscular junction, which is the mind-muscle connection, the fancy term for that. So that's sort of the platinum tier. Then you look at the gold tier, which is that, but on a more a la carte basis, where you give access to a gym that has nice equipment like the cable machines, lots of space with free weights and Olympic bar, squat racks, cables, things like that, and the tension bands, things like that, to really develop the body in 3 dimensions. And you can even add an app-based component to that to guide people through self-guided workouts that would work on mobility. And then, of course, the a la carte is access to trainers on a one-to-one basis that would be part of the ancillary revenue spend. Then you move into silver and the bronze tier, which is silver might be no trainers on site, but you have You have all the regular, chest press machines that are pure muscle hypertrophy, but don't do anything for mobility and can actually, over time, cause a repetitive strain injury. But then you might have a dual cable arm machine just there as an augmented thing, so people can do these exercises if they know what they're there. And then the in-room aspects. So you have brands like Even Hotels, which has some cables or the bands that are in the room, and some foam rollers and some cork balls to give self massages, so people can do a lot of in-room stuff. And also through the IPTV, some guided exercises, be that yoga, calisthenics, stretching, things to either warm up or warm down during the day.
Interesting. Actually, I was at a hotel this summer in Athens, and they had a rack on the wall, and it had some of those items you've just mentioned. And I was like, I honestly didn't even know what they were for. So now you've explained a lot for me. What kind of demand is there at the moment from the market for these different tiers?
Well, it's tough to measure the exact demand for fitness or mobility, because you would require some sort of pre and post questionnaire with a large sample size that would say specifically, are you booking this for fitness or mobility, rather than just wellness, where right now the classifications are, we have wellness primary guests, which are people who visit a destination or a hotel specifically for wellness programming, such as, a resort like Body Holiday in St. Lucia, which has been doing this for over 20 years. And they're sort of the gold standard. They're incredible, where people are coming there for various programs. So whether that's, fat loss or some sort of detoxing with muscular strength, or the aforementioned Canyon Ranches or Miraval resorts, that's wellness primary. And that's more that platinum and gold tier. Wellness secondary is saying, I'm visiting a certain destination for various reason, conference, family, friends, wedding, and I want to stay fit while I travel. Be that the bands in the room, so that way I can fit something in at the beginning or end of day, in and around events or various other things I got to do, or access to a good gym, or even things like run clubs, where there's a brand called East Hotels, which at their Miami hotel, they have a run club that is an incredible way to combine good exercise, running, one of the most natural forms of exercise, along with a social aspect of meeting new people and jogging around Brickell in the downtown area. So again, it's hard to calculate the exact demand for fitness in terms of whether you can point specifically to that as the number one driver of a specific booking or not. But we can point to statistics that point to the growth of both wellness primary and wellness secondary travel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, got it. And I expect that, what we're seeing as well with the different generations coming up is they are more prone to fitness and wellness, and kind of, there's a good downturn in alcohol drinking and things like that. And, how many times have you heard somebody come back off holiday and say, oh, I need a holiday from the holiday? You think, yeah, well, I wonder what kind of rest you had, because there's one type of holiday, and then there's this wellness type of holiday where you come back truly refreshed, which I absolutely love. I love that. So when it comes to, earlier on you mentioned about technology, so a bit like me finding those items in the room as a guest and not being quite sure how to use them. Can these types of gyms or this apparatus in the room exist without trainers? Is there a technology that can support? You did mention that before.
Of course. There's always going to be technologies. There are currently technologies, and there will always be technologies coming online to support this, because like everything else in hospitality, labor, it's your biggest cost item. And of course, in traditional hotels, we focus on housekeepers or front desk agents in terms of really driving efficiencies. But if you look at the wellness facility and the wellness side of the ledger, the problem you have with labor is it is highly specialized. Whether you're talking about a masseuse or a personal trainer or even a physiotherapist, you're dealing with a combination of skills that is both, that requires training, potentially certification, as well as attitude. And as you say, the classic phrase, you can't train for attitude. So you can't, you don't want to have somebody on staff who knows everything about the human body, but is just cold and hostile to guests. That just doesn't work. So you're dealing with a highly specialized labor force. And now you also, because as you said, the increased drive for wellness programming, hotels are not only competing against new hotels that are looking for this labor, but you're competing against corporations that now want to have personal trainers or masseuses or wellness professionals on staff. And then as well, you have technologies that are one-to-one booking software. So a lot of these personal trainers have to say, well, why should I take a salary from a hotel when I can just do this on my own and set my own hours and take 100% of my own margins? So you have increased competition on all fronts. And what that means is that labor within wellness is going to be increasingly small demand, and it's the pay scale is going to increase proportional to that shortage. So you do have the aforementioned IPTV apps that are going to come up on board that can integrate with your interactive TV app that can just give basic training like a yoga or any sort of mobility drills. There's a ton of stuff on YouTube. So if you want to brute force it, you can just link to some videos of some guys on YouTube. You could hire an influencer to design a bespoke program, like an actual exercise influencer. There are more advanced programs coming online that are AI-based apps where they can use an in-phone camera to analyze a person's movement and give real-time feedback saying, you know, oh, when you squat, your right ankle is not having full flexion. Therefore, you should stretch it in this way. Let's fix this right now. So there's apps coming out that can basically help to substitute for the lack of personal trainers due to the high cost and high demand of those personal trainers. To go on another side, aside from the guest-facing stuff about the education and sensing and training of this, is it still comes down to the integration of guest data. And how do I identify guests that would want these fitness things? How do we book them in for appointments? How do we sell to them a new room type that is a wellness-based room type that has the bands, the cork balls, and the various fitness gear in it? So that way you can properly get those people into the rooms and get potential upselling revenues from that. And that all requires better data integration and knowing who your guests are to find these proper micro segments within that. So there's the front end and the back end to all this. And it is very important to look at both of those. And then the third aspect that's going to come into this is now personalized itineraries, where, again, more on the resort side, more of that platinum and gold tier. Hyatt Resorts are doing this. In the one outside San Diego is a forerunner on this. Is you have somebody come in for a 3-4 day itinerary, and then it'll line up the trainer and practitioner availability with your intake form in terms of what your personal demands are, and then it will generate an itinerary for you, so that way it can line up the various fitness things you should be doing throughout the day, along with diet plans or meal plans, along with the various activities that you might do on or off site.
Got it. So within hotel operations, there's already a lot that hoteliers can do in terms of identifying guest profiles, personalizations, and what the requirements are for these types of guests. Is there any other way that hotels can leverage, or you see it happening in the future? Is it a new parts of the tech stack? Are there any other tech that we should be looking out for?
There's lots of tech we can look out for, but master the basics. The whole idea of somebody books a room and then they have to then go back to the website and search the spa to find somebody closer to the date, instead of within one booking platform immediately being brought into a spa or wellness booking platform to immediately book them in with a sports specialist, or saying, hey, we noticed that you're coming over this weekend. We actually have some available appointments for this, active release technique practitioner, ART practitioner. Do you want to get booked in and, augment around some sightseeing, so that way you can see if you have any sort of ways that you can give one or two exercises that can alleviate pain for later on. So the whole idea of one booking and getting people booked in to thereby augment ancillary revenues in a various way as quickly as possible. So there's big opportunities with mastering the basics and just working with what you have, ahead of anything fancy like those platinum and gold tier ones that are doing with, DEXA or DT scans, DT standing for digital infrared. Oh man, I got to look that up. Actually, the DT scan. Yeah. There's too many acronyms to remember, and I just haven't had coffee for over 2 hours. So, the whole idea with these platinum and gold tiers is that they will increasingly combine various advanced measures with prescriptive exercises and massage techniques, whether that's chiropractic, muscle activation techniques, isometrics, ART, orthopedics, acupuncture, etc., combining the diagnostics with that, along with all these advanced blood marker tests to show where inflammation is and how to reduce inflammation, how to reduce blood glycation levels, all those new fancy things. But for most run-of-the-mill hotels, and I don't like using the term run-of-the-mill, but sort of the silver and bronze wellness programming, just master the basics, get the data where it needs to be, start micro segmenting, start serving up the various things you already have, and then add in small bits as you go forward.
Right. That's the good news. There's a lot more that we can do with the tech that we've already got. You've already got the technology there. It's just about activating it.
Yeah.
So beyond the hotel gym and the guest room that we've covered, are there any other ways that you can incorporate mobility into hotel strategy, hotel experience?
Well, I mean, let's break that down. So hotel experience, resorts, the three most natural exercises for a human body. Number one is hiking. Number two is running and or sprinting, jumping. And then number three is climbing trees. We're terrestrial apes. We're also descended from arboreal apes. So, eventually, when we're out in, the East Rift Valley in Africa, we had to be able to run away from lions and also climb trees to defend ourselves. So, any sort of off balance upper body exercises you can do, as well as hiking or outdoor activities. And, even things like gardening, horticulture. It is one of the common aspects of all the blue zones, the 5 studied areas where people have increasing longevity, is they all have mobility, but none of them really emphasize going to the gym and just building massive muscles. They emphasize light exercise that involves high mobility throughout the day. Mm-hmm. So in Icaria or Sardinia, they're climbing up and down mountains to harvest wild herbs. So they have hiking naturally built into their day, and then they're bending down to pick up and inspect the soil and to pick up wild oregano or things like that. So you think about something like gardening and just being able to bend down in a low squat position throughout the day. And then you think about things like dancing, sports, boxing, martial arts, all these various other ways that we can combine combine mobility into things that are fun and social. And to that aspect, you have group yoga classes, Pilates, animal flow, group calisthenics classes, group stretching classes, just fun ways to combine different modalities. So mobility in all things, mobilities and activities, resorts are big on this. For urban hotels, if you look at sort of that midweek base, you have the corporate and the meeting and events clients. So corporate clients, they're going to go off and go about their day, but giving them access to the equipment in the room so that they could do a light exercise in the morning or in the evening to wind down is already great. But increasingly, I'm seeing the advent of experiential meeting and events where an event organizer will bring on some form of yoga or stretching practitioner to come in and do like a group stretch for 10 minutes in between various conferencing activities, knowing that it will elevate the mood, alleviate stress, improve people's posture so they have less lower back pain throughout the day, and really help to augment the primary purpose, which is that meeting, event, or wedding or social occasion. So there's plenty of other ways where you can bring mobility in mind, but having mobility on the back of your mind is sort of saying, well, the ability to move free of pain will affect all other things. It'll affect my mood. It'll affect my energy levels. It'll affect my ability to have vitality throughout the day instead of needing to rest because I have lower back pain. Understanding that means that now you can think about what those revenue activations are going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can imagine it being an amazing plus for staff as well. If somebody's got that in mind in their business, they'll also be applying it to their staff, and that's staff well-being.
Yeah, with staff, the number one place we got to look is repetitive strain injuries for housekeeping teams. Like housekeepers, that is a brutal job to be a housekeeper, and people increasingly they're going to get all sorts of injuries: knees, hips, lower back, shoulders, wrists. And the last thing you want is somebody that it goes on short-term disability leave, paid time off, or just naturally being demotivated. Then that increases turnover rates. So having the wellness built into your employee wellness policies and programming, having mobility training built into there will really help with employee engagement and retention.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Okay, well, we're wrapping up here, but is there anything else that you'd like to add, Adam, about mobility and about wellness before we do wrap up?
Well, there's lots I can add to this conversation. I guess the one other thing I would like to instill is this whole idea of transformative experiences to end off, which is to say, if you're unlike me, where I've been practicing mobility and I do it every day, and I've been formally trained in it, both from a anatomical as well as just exercise physiology and kinesiology levels. But if you have no idea what mobility is, and then somebody were to inspire you and send you on a journey to incorporate mobility into your life, and then you notice over time saying like, oh, I can wake up now without lower back pain, and therefore I can get started on my day faster. Something as simple as that. Or, oh, my rotator cuff injury in my right shoulder is gone because I've been doing mobility training. Getting you started on that journey, that's what we call transformation. And this is really where you take a guest who is just a customer and you make them a guest for life. Because if you are able to introduce a transformative experience, whether that's mobility or massage or a sound bathing ceremony or a great on-site event, if you're able to give a guest a transformative experience at your hotel, you've won them over. And behind your backs, whether word of mouth or word of mouth, they're going to be talking about you, and they're going to love you, and they're going to sing your praises, and it will silently reflect in your occupancy rates, your ability to grow ADR, RevPAR, TRevPAR, and really thinking along those fronts. And mobility is something that is total ripe for opportunities here, because very few other hotels are very active in this space.
Brilliant. Brilliant. The transformative experience and being able to, trace that back to your hotel is absolute gold. Where can people go if they want to find out more about mobility in general? Can you point them to
In
any site?
general, I would say, first off, you're not going to learn it in a day. It's going to be a process. It will take years to learn proper mobility, both in terms of actual knowledge as well as expanding your capacity around each individual joint. Tendons are not designed to elongate overnight. If they did, you would snap in half. They are designed for very slow, gradual change. It takes years to increase your own mobility and to develop what's called the unconscious movement patterns, where you are just naturally, your mind muscle connection works and you're able to move and stabilize and have balance across a variety of three-dimensional positions of your body. So practice makes perfect. Can't learn it in a day. Go on a place that I call YouTube University, which is just basically look on YouTube and start looking at videos, type in basic mobility training, watch a video a day, put it into practice, try it out. If you're doing it properly, basic mobility, you can do it at night, nice and light. And you can also do mobility training where you're sweating buckets within 15 minutes. Whichever way you want to do it, there's a way to do it. Start on YouTube, learn by watching, whatever your injury is, if it's knee, it's hips, start there nice and light, do some stuff. A lot of it is just basic groundwork, no weights, no IT bands, just stuff from the ground. Get on YouTube, learn it and incorporate it and make it a lifelong learning and lifelong practice.
Brilliant. Thank you. Maybe this is the transformative experience for somebody watching this live. You never know. You heard it here. I hope so. Thank you so much, Adam. This was fantastic. Thank you for coming on and for sharing all your insights for hotels and also on a personal level. So brilliant.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Have a great day. Bye, everybody.